You get to say when, Rabbi.
All right, so we are live now, so thank you again to Jeremiah and Hannah for leading us in worship. Because of some logistical things, they are off-site, and so now we're beginning also our live stream on Facebook of the liturgy. So let's continue in our worship with Ma Tovu. Continue as we call ourselves into a deeper place of worship with the Baruch. And now for the Shema, our ultimate declaration of faith.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod, Malchuto Leolam.
Here is our God, the Lord is one. Blessed be his name, whose glorious kingdom is forever and ever. Together, all of you know the Ve'ahavta, and you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you today shall be upon your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and you shall speak of them when you are sitting at home, and when you walk along the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them as a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates. Amen. And for Micha Mocha, can you turn back so that you can see the...
Now you don't have to sit in your seats at home. You can get up and move around to this one just like you would if you were here in the synagogue with us.
do an abbreviated Amidah where we'll do the Hechi Kedusha, the first three blessings together, and then we'll have some time that you can pray quietly on your own.
Adonai sfatai tiftachu fi yagid tehilatecha. Change the slide, please. Thank you. Baruch Adonai Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei HaKol, Vezocher Chasdei Avot ve'imahot, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה מתים אתה, רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם. Who causes the wind to blow and the rain to descend upon us. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדומה לך, מלך מליט ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע. ונאמנת להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. Advance the slide, please. We shall sanctify your name in this world, just as it is sanctified in heaven above, according to the words of your prophet. One called to another, saying, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Melech haaretz kevodo. Then with a loud thundering voice, rising to face the seraphim, they say, Baruch kavod Adonai mimkomo. Say this together. From your dwelling place you will appear and reign over us. When will you reign in Zion? Soon, and in our days may you dwell there. May you be highly exalted and sanctified in the midst of Jerusalem, your holy city, from generation to generation and for all eternity. May our eyes witness your kingdom, as it is written by the hand of your servant David, your righteous anointed. Yimloch Adonai le'olam, Elohai Tzion, L'dor v'dor, Hallelujah. We shall proclaim your greatness throughout every generation, and for all eternity we shall declare your holiness. Your praise, our God, shall never leave our lips. For you, Holy King, blessed are you, O Lord, the Holy God.
And now some time for some quiet reflection and prayer.
Jeremiah and Hannah are still with us, they'll get a kick out of this one. Oh, say shalom.
As we pray for those in our community who need healing at this time. So if you probably can't see the slides, so I'll say it with, you can just join with me. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, may he bless and heal all those who are suffering illness. And go ahead and pray the names of those you would like mentioned specifically for healing. Let's continue with the next slide. May the Holy One be filled with compassion for them in order to return them to full health and vigor and send them a quick and full recovery from heaven, healing of body and mind, together with all others who are ill, in the community of Israel and the congregation of Messiah.
For Shabbat
is a time of healing in the merit of Yeshua. May healing come speedily and soon, and let us say, Amen. And may God also bring healing for all of those who have been infected with the coronavirus. May you bring healing to them. May you bring a full and speedy recovery. May your hand reach down and cover all of those countries that are being affected, especially not only the quick spread here in the United States, but Spain and Italy and all those who are dealing with the ramifications of this virus. So we lift this service to you in the name of Yeshua. Amen. All right, so here we are for another one of our virtual services. And I was thinking about the New Testament reading today, which is from Matthew 16. And today, as many of you know, we are only 11 days away from Passover. Before Passover is to begin, the Torah tells us in Exodus 12, Shivat yamim matzot tochelu. For 7 days, you are to eat matzot. On the first day, you're supposed to remove the leaven from your houses, and whoever eats chametz, the leavening, from the first day to the 7th day is to be cut off from Israel. The Torah is clear. We are to remove all of the chametz from our homes, and we are not to eat it throughout all of Passover. Therefore, in our New Testament passage this morning from Matthew 16, we find a very relevant passage to this season, where it says, beginning in 16 verse 5, the Talmidim, in crossing to the other side of the lake, had forgotten to bring any bread. So when Yeshua said to them, watch out and guard yourselves against the chametz of the Perushim and the Tzedukim, of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they thought he said it because they hadn't brought bread. But Yeshua, aware of this, said, such little faith you have. Why are you talking with each other about not having bread? Don't you understand yet? Don't you remember the 5 loaves and the 5,000 and how many baskets you filled? Or the 7 loaves and the 4,000 and how many baskets you filled? How can you possibly think I was talking to you about bread? Guard yourselves from the chametz of the perushim and the tzedukim. Then they understood they were to guard themselves not from yeast for bread, but from the teaching of the perushim, the tzedukim. Obviously, a lot of people read this as like harsh criticism of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, but there's something much deeper going on. Yeshua, yes, warns his Talmidim to be careful of the chametz of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. But what's going on here? We actually see similar language that Yeshua uses here for chametz with the Apostle Paul. In Galatians 5:9, he writes, it takes only a little chametz to leaven a whole batch of dough. The idea that just a little bit of chametz can infect everything kind of sounds like what we're all dealing with around the world, the pandemic right now, right? That people who don't even know that they're carriers of COVID-19 are able to affect countless people. And this is what Paul is saying. It's just a little bit of chametz can influence everything. And he later writes in 1 Corinthians, or in another place in 1 Corinthians, he writes in chapter 5, verse 6, your boasting is not good. Don't you know the same? It takes only a little chametz to leaven a whole batch of dough. Get rid of the old chametz so that you can be a new batch of dough. Because in reality you are unleavened. For our Passover lamb, the Messiah, has been sacrificed. So let us celebrate the Seder. Let us celebrate Passover not with leftover chametz, the chametz of wickedness and evil, but with the matzah of purity and truth. Chametz is often used as an allusion to pride and arrogance. Not only does Paul do this, but we see this all over in the rabbinic material. Why? It's that idea of being puffed up, right? A little bit of chametz, the leavening agent, the yeast that is within something, over time it ferments and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right? This is what happens with sourdough, right? It begins with just this little starter, but then eventually you keep pulling off dough and you keep, you can use a starter for, there's some who have been using it for over 100 years. There's a bakery, a famous sourdough bakery in San Francisco that's been using a sourdough starter for over 100 years. One of Yeshua's often critiques of certain Pharisees and Sadducees was their pride. And this could be true of many religious leaders today. We're not exempt from this. In fact, many places you could just, even though there's a historical context that I think is important to remember, but you could take a lot of what Yeshua is saying and just insert it into the here and now. Yeshua is teaching his followers to guard against not only getting puffed up, against being proud and arrogant, but he is also warning them to be careful of false teaching. Specifically that of certain Pharisees and Sadducees, but also more broadly about false teaching more particularly. This is really relevant to us today. And we see this actually throughout the other letters of the New Testament where the writers are encouraging their people and warning them against false teaching. Just think about how relevant these two applications are for us today. One is this sense of arrogance and how much just a little bit of chametz infects everything. But also this idea of false teaching. There's so much either on the news or not so much on the news, but maybe on the internet is the worst place to find it, right? That all kinds of false teachings, and there are many people who claim to have the words of truth. But we need to be able to, like the synagogue in Berea, the Bereans, to weigh what is being said, to weigh it with Scripture, and to be able to understand what is rightfully correct. We're currently in a season where we're forced to be more cognizant of these themes as we begin clearing out all of the chametz from our homes. But the instructions of the New Testament, as well as the rabbis, are not just clear about removing all the chametz physically, but spiritually as well. We need to get rid of everything in our lives that keeps us from accomplishing God's purpose for us. And this is not only for this literal season, but it is the homework for us as we're quarantined in our homes to use this time productively. I'm sure many of you, like myself, have done a lot of binge watching, and we maybe haven't used our times as productively as we kind of hoped we would. I'm sure all of us thought, wow, I'm going to be able to accomplish so much. Yeah, I haven't accomplished quite as much as I was hoping. But I want to encourage all of us to use this time that as we're beginning to prepare for Passover, as we're cleaning our homes and getting rid of all the chametz, that we would do the same things within ourselves. That we would use this time to be spiritually productive. That we would remove those things, that we would work on those things that are holding us back from accomplishing everything that God would have us do. And this is that season. It's that time of preparation. It's a different kind of season, but the season is still the same. My wife this week mentioned kind of the irony of the Passover season that we're in, that for the first time we're going to find ourselves, maybe not the first time, but we're going to find ourselves in a similar time as the original Passover, where we're going to be secluded in our homes with our immediate families, praying that a plague passes us over. So as you're celebrating Passover, I want you to take that seriously. This idea that everything can change in a moment, but also that is for the good, and it's for, in one sense it's a plague, but in the other sense it's an opportunity. That out of that plague and out of that moment came the redemption of Israel. And that you and every one of us can have a part in that. Not only did all of our ancestors who took these words seriously play that part in physically leaving Egypt, but we have the opportunity to leave Egypt spiritually this year. To leave behind everything that is holding us back. To move forward to the calling that is set before us. Amen.
Amen.
And why should we do this? As Paul challenged us, so that we can celebrate Passover this year not with the leftover chametz, the chametz of wickedness and evil, but with the matzah of purity and truth. Avinu, our Father, I pray that we would take these words seriously, that we would not let ourselves get puffed up and arrogant, but at the same time we would use this time, this season that many of us around the world are in quarantine, to be spiritually productive. To not only physically prepare for Passover, but prepare ourselves for the purposes that you would have for us. And that we would be awakened to exactly what that is. That people would rise up into their calling in this season. That they would have a new revelation of the purposes set before them, so that we can serve the living God. We thank you, Yeshua, for all that you do within us. And we pray for your intervention in the world at this time. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, in the name of Yeshua Messiah. Amen.
Amen.
So we're going to conclude with the Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ויוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו ככם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Therefore God also highly exalted Messiah and gave him the name that is above every name, so that the name belonging to Yeshua every knee should bend, in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue confess that Yeshua, the Messiah, is Adonai, to the glory of God the Father. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
And now for the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkedash shemei Rabba.
Amen.
Ve'alma divra chirutei v'yamlech malchutei. B'chayachon yomechon v'yitzmach b'kenei v'karem meshichei. B'chayachon yomechon uv'chayei v'chol beit Yisrael. Ba'agalau v'zman karev v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam ulamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitrama v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei v'kudusha b'richu. Le'ela minko birchata b'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechemata. Damiran v'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim alenu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'romav. Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May He who makes peace in the heavenly realms make peace for all of us, for all of Israel and all the nations of the world, and let us say, Amen. So that concludes our service. We'll close in a benediction at this moment, and that will conclude, but I want to encourage everybody to please continue to give to support the synagogue at this time. You can give through Venmo. You can also go to our website and click the donate button and give through there. That this is a really tough time. We've seen, we've taken an 80% hit just over the last couple weeks in our giving. And we still have to pay rent. We still want to keep our staff and everything. So please, I encourage all of you to continue to give and support the synagogue, even though I know this is uncertain times, but this is also the time to have faith. All right? So if you are on Zoom, if you're watching us on Zoom, please stay on after we close. After the benediction, this will conclude Facebook Live, but for those of us in the congregation, go ahead and stay on, and like last week, we'll spend some time praying together and catching up a little bit. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
Ken yehi ratzon.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha.
Ken yehi ratzon.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha. Vayasem lecha. Shalom. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.